My name's Will, and this is my family's 1975 Cessna 180. We acquired this aircraft 7 years ago, and that's it. We kind of have a fun history with this aircraft. This was the first 180 I ever flew. It was owned by Dick Ardez in the 90s, and I flight instructed for Dick when I came up to Alaska in 2000. So it's kind of cool to own an airplane that was in the past owned by a guy I worked for. He had us fly the airplane to just get some time on it, and we actually flew this on our anniversary, our 4th anniversary back in 2009. Then end of that summer, he sold the airplane to another gentleman that his brother-in-law worked with me, and I just got a random text one night and he wanted to sell the airplane, and the rest is history. We love as a family. We go out and mainly use it as a camping and exploring vehicle. Just last week we flew up into the Talkeetnas and landed a strip and did a bunch of hiking, and then we flew the next day and we went out to Hinchinbrook Island and went to the beach, and the girls just love it. It's great for that. It's not a Cub. It doesn't land off-field, but in trade of that, I can go 150 miles. It's not hard for the airplane to do that and come back in one day. This airplane was upgraded to the 0470-50 P-Ponk engine back in like 2003. We put the Macaulay 3-blade prop on it. So it's a 0520, 275 horsepower. And the gentleman that owned it before I did, he put a up-gross kit in it. And so its gross weight's 3190. So it's kind of like a midway between a 185 and a 180. So it does really well with this engine. Has a lot of extra power. The great thing about this engine mod is that you can take your existing 0470, and there's certain models that you have to have. If not, you have to buy a new crank. But you can take this engine and then have it bored out, the case bored out, to accept 520 cylinders, and then that way they can do the engine upgrade without having to buy or change your core engine case. The prop, 3-blade Black Mac Macaulay, but this is a much higher thrust prop than the original prop that came on it, the 2-blade. I really like the how it pulls. It has a lot of good power, and we get going pretty good on it. And it also worked really well on floats. After I purchased the airplane, I put the 31-inch bush wheels on it. It has a Aeroset cargo pod. It can be on the airplane on floats. It has holes in it so they can run the flying wires through the pod and have extra storage on floats. So it is an incredible amount of storage. I don't know. You could almost stuff so much cargo in it, you couldn't get the airplane off the water, I'd imagine, if you had enough. Other than that, the wing was an original stock wing, and this last winter we decided to upgrade the interior in the wing, and we put a Sportsman stall kit on the leading edge, and the VGs, and then the Wing X wing extensions. Because I had the Kenmore upgross to 3190, the Wing X doesn't get me any extra gross weight, but the performance is about 30% better than it was. And these year's Cessnas came with what's called the camber cuff wing, and it's about, if we took that wingtip off, you can see the original. This Sportsman is about 2 inches farther forward on the leading edge than the original camber cuff. The original camber cuff is kind of like a Horton stall kit, if you will. The earlier model 180s came with no stall kit, and this one originally came with a camber cuff, which is Cessna's answer to a stall kit, because everybody started putting stall kits on these airplanes in the 60s and early 70s. But anyway, with this modification on there, it allows me to approach at about 50 to 55 miles an hour with plenty of control authority. I really like, there's a lot of discussion on forums and whatnot with guys about this Wing X, that they don't like the Wing X because you lose your roll authority. I put the VGs on there, and what I found in flying it is those VGs keep the wind on the ailerons, and I still have really good aileron authority. I did the micro aerodynamics VGs. They're on the vertical stabilizer and the horizontal stabilizer, and I really am impressed with the VGs because I feel like it was power steering. The airplane, when you would come into a flare, if you didn't have a lot of power, and it would just sink out and hit the ground. That's kind of a standard 180 thing. And now with those VGs, I don't really feel like it does. So I think it keeps the airflow on the elevator a lot more. The other modification we did, these are called the Quasar wingtips that Steen sells. These have a really bright LED light in them, so you can see recognition from a long ways away. I really wanted to be very visible. And then these strobe nav combos here, they're also a very bright light. Inside the wing, the fuel tanks, they are the 80-gallon fuel tanks. On 80 gallons of gas, could probably, fly for about 6.5 hours with an hour reserve fuel. Since I've owned the airplane, we had to replace the fuel bladders. We did that 2 winters ago. If you've never replaced fuel bladders in a Cessna, you've really missed out. It's one of the greatest joys in life. They're incredibly difficult. So this rivet line right here, all the way into the edge, is where the fuel bladder is. Over 45 years or whatever, they become incredibly stiff. You can't get them out without cutting them out, practically, at least mine. And then when we got them out, the large chunks that we had, the thing was so old and so decayed, you could grab it and just rip it. It was rather frightening, actually. Moving on here, this is the U Avionics tail beacon ADS-B out. That's been fantastic. I didn't think I'd like it as much as I have liked it for having the ability to see traffic. Even back here, anybody else that participates in ADS-B, I can see the traffic, and it's a great situational awareness factor. My airplane is a little bit unique. 74 or 75 and on, rolled out of the factory. If it had a factory float kit, it rolled out of the factory with the large vertical stabilizer. The small one sweeps down and goes something like this. You have to have this large vertical stabilizer to put the upgross kit on it. And this is it makes people have a hard time figuring out whether or not it's a 180 or a 185. The large vertical is indicative of either a late model 180 with a float kit or a 185. I have the firewall forward battery mod. I'm mostly impressed with that modification. It removes 20-something pound cable in the bottom of the airplane, and the battery goes from being like 35 pounds to about 15 pounds. Because it's nose heavy, you can virtually almost put anything you want in the airplane when you're hauling cargo with it, and you can't move it to the aft end of the CG, so it's really nice. One of the interesting things, I have the float kit, obviously. I mentioned the floats before. If you see a Skywagon, it has this piece right here. That's one of the telltale signs that it has the float kit on it. Some of the early model ones with the float kit don't have the triangle piece, but for the most part, all these airplanes with float kits have that. Also included with the factory float kit, the whole inside the airplane has been zinced. Up here on the headliner, this bulkhead right here and the one forward of it, on the roof, it had lost a lot of the zinc, and we scraped off what was loose and then repainted it. The rest of it, shockingly, was intact. And so yes, the float kitted airplanes have been zinc chromated at the factory inside. One of the things that people don't know, when you buy one of these airplanes, you can get in a situation where they've been damaged several times, and the way that they've repaired them, people haven't paid attention to whether or not you put the correct wing on it. And there's a float kitted wing and there's a non-float kitted wing. And you can tell primarily by the rivet spacing inside of the strut. The non-float kitted airplanes will have a little bit wider, I believe it's like 1 inch spacing, and these are like 1/2 inch spacing on the rivets on the inside. Mechanics might not even catch that, and it could fly for 50 years with the improper wing on, I'm sure, but that's just there's a lot of little things on this that if you go to buy one, it pays a lot of dividends to do a little bit of research and have someone that's very knowledgeable look at whatever you're gonna buy. Really, on these airplanes, the engine doesn't matter. It's not important what its condition is in, because you can just replace it. What's vitally important in these airplanes is the airframe. You can replace the interior, you can replace seats, you can replace the engine, you can replace the windows, none of that matters. If you find a good airframe, they're gold. And another interesting thing that I forgot to mention, I have, and all the Bush pilot types are about to have a heart attack, I have flap gap seals. I can't tell, obviously I'm not gonna take them off. I can't tell that they degrade my landing performance all that much. They do increase my cruise speed, and since you spend most of your life at cruise speed, I'm happy with them. I have a friend that has a 185. He does not have flap gap seals. He has 29-inch bush wheels, so they're smaller. And at the same power setting, we're a little bit faster. So you want to see the inside? Coming into the airplane, it used to be the nasty brown interior Cessna, what I like to call the baby poop, 1970s brown. This last winter, we totally redid our seats, our floor, our headliner, the sidewall panels. We had a flat floor extended baggage put in. So the original baggage used to be 8 inches off the floor. and now we have a carbon fiber flat floor baggage. We put foam all throughout the airplane, and it gives this vinyl floor just a little bit of cush, and just makes it a really pleasant floor to stand on and sit on. The doors have the door stewards, which are a really neat modification because it keeps the door from coming up and impacting the strut. A lot of these airplanes, even my airplane, you can see in the past has had a little bit of damage where the door hit the strut, and with those door stewards it keeps the damage down to a minimum. We had the headliner taken out and then an inch of foam put in on the ceiling, and then this headliner was glued to the foam, and then a wing root pocket, and it just opened up, especially for me being tall, it opened up the ability for me to sit in the airplane and be a lot more comfortable. And we had our seats redone. Sport aircraft seats make the new seats, and they've been fantastic. It used to be you'd fly for about an hour and then want to just get out of the airplane, just kind of hurt sitting in the airplane. Now I have a really nice lumbar that for me is perfect. My wife loves this one. She has a little bit higher cushion set up for her. The seats come where you just slide them over the back of the frame and then tie the seat base on, is essentially all it is. It's very uncomplicated to put on. It just makes the longer flights just so much more enjoyable to get on the ground now, and I haven't even thought about getting out of the airplane. This has been one of the best mods we did. And the other really cool, just fit and finish of these seats. These seams, they line up perfectly. The center seam is perfectly lined up. They're just fantastic seats, and they add so much accentuation to the interior of the airplane. And then my wife made these out of the extra leather, made these pull handles that they're just awesome. We kind of add a nice finished touch to it. And then as you can see, our panel is the original baby poop brown Cessna. That's our next project we're gonna work on down the road, is redoing the panel. But there's a lot of new products that are coming out that trying to evaluate where I'd go with the panel. So this airplane is so fun for families. I can put full fuel, 4 people, and a bunch of gear in it, and fly wherever we want to go. Yeah, I really want to keep this airplane and have it well maintained so that the girls can, if they want to learn how to fly, they would use it.